Have you ever wondered why some of the smartest people you know never reach their full potential? They read the books. They understand success. They know exactly what they should do. Yet somehow, they keep putting it off. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And before they realize it, years have quietly disappeared. Most people believe procrastination is caused by laziness. But what if that's completely wrong? What if procrastination isn't a lack of discipline, but a psychological defense mechanism that your brain has been using your entire life? Because if you truly understand why you procrastinate, you stop blaming yourself, and you finally learn how to move forward. Today, we're going to explore the hidden psychology behind procrastination, why intelligent people often struggle with it the most, and how one small shift in the way you think can change the trajectory of your entire life. This isn't just about getting more work done. It's about understanding yourself. Welcome to Beyond Wealth. Imagine waking up tomorrow with unlimited motivation. You finally start the project you've been avoiding. You answer every email. You exercise. You study. You finish everything on your to-do list. It sounds like the perfect solution. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if someone gave you endless motivation for a single day, it still wouldn't solve the real problem. Because procrastination has never been about motivation, and it has never been about laziness. Yet that's exactly what most people have been taught to believe. Think about it. Have you ever delayed something that was genuinely important? A business idea, an important conversation, a job application, a workout, a dream you've had for years. Chances are, you already knew what you needed to do. You weren't missing information. You weren't waiting for someone to explain the next step. In fact, you may have spent hours researching, planning, and preparing. And still, you didn't begin. That's what makes procrastination so frustrating. It's not a lack of knowledge. It's the gap between knowing and doing. Society often labels procrastinators as lazy. But if that were true, why do so many ambitious people struggle with it? Why do university students postpone studying for exams they desperately want to pass? Why do talented entrepreneurs delay launching businesses they've dreamed about for years? Why do writers avoid writing? Why do athletes skip training? Why do intelligent people repeatedly postpone the very actions that could improve their lives? The answer is surprisingly simple. Because procrastination isn't a productivity problem. It's an emotional problem. Every time you postpone an important task, your brain isn't asking, "Is this important?" It's asking something completely different. Does this feel uncomfortable? And if the answer is yes, your brain immediately starts searching for relief. Not success, relief. That's why scrolling through your phone suddenly feels irresistible. That's why cleaning your room seems strangely urgent. That's why watching just one more video sounds completely reasonable. In those moments, your brain isn't trying to destroy your future. It's trying to improve your present. It wants to reduce stress, anxiety, uncertainty, fear of failure, even if that temporary comfort creates much bigger problems later. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They believe they need more discipline, so they blame themselves. They call themselves lazy, weak, unfocused. But the more they attack themselves, the heavier the emotional burden becomes. And the cycle continues. Delay, guilt, stress, more delay, until procrastination stops feeling like a habit and starts feeling like part of your identity. But here's the good news. If procrastination isn't caused by laziness, then it can be understood. And if it can be understood, it can be changed. But first, you need to understand why your brain believes procrastination is protecting you. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cold swimming pool. You know the water isn't dangerous. You know that once you get in, your body will adjust. You know you'll probably enjoy it after a few minutes. And yet, every part of your mind tells you to wait just a little longer, just one more minute. That's how procrastination works. It's rarely about the task itself. It's about the feeling that comes before the task, the discomfort, the uncertainty, the possibility of failure, the fear that your work won't be good enough. Your brain has one job above almost everything else: to keep you safe. The problem is that your brain hasn't fully adapted to the modern world. Thousands of years ago, avoiding danger kept our ancestors alive. Today, your brain often reacts to emotional discomfort as if it were physical danger. A difficult conversation, a blank page waiting to be written, a business you want to start, an exam, a presentation. None of these can physically harm you. But your brain doesn't always make that distinction. It simply detects stress. And when it detects stress, it looks for an escape. Not because you're weak, but because that's what it was designed to do. Think about the last time you procrastinated. What did you do instead? Maybe you checked your phone. Maybe you watched videos. Maybe you organized your desk. Maybe you answered messages that weren't urgent. Those activities probably weren't more important. They were simply easier. They gave your brain something it desperately wanted: immediate relief. And that's the trap. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain rewards you with a small feeling of relief. For a moment, you actually feel better. The anxiety fades. The pressure disappears. But only temporarily, because the task doesn't disappear. It waits. And while you're avoiding it, your mind quietly keeps thinking about it. The unfinished task becomes heavier. The guilt becomes stronger. The anxiety grows. Ironically, the thing you avoided to feel better ends up making you feel worse. This is why procrastination feels like quicksand. The more you struggle by avoiding the problem, the deeper you sink. And here's something fascinating. Research in psychology has shown that procrastination is closely connected to emotional regulation. In other words, it's not that you don't know what to do. It's that your brain is trying to avoid how doing it makes you feel. That's an entirely different problem. Because if procrastination is emotional, then the solution isn't simply forcing yourself to work harder. The solution begins by understanding your emotions instead of fighting them. Highly disciplined people don't have brains that never experience discomfort. They feel fear. They feel doubt. They feel resistance, just like everyone else. The difference is that they've learned something most people never do. They stop waiting for discomfort to disappear. They act while it's still there. They understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement despite fear, progress despite uncertainty, action despite resistance. And once you understand that, everything begins to change. Because you stop asking, "How can I feel motivated?" And you start asking, "How can I take the first step, even if I don't feel ready?" That single question has changed the lives of countless people. Because the first step has a strange kind of power. It breaks the illusion that waiting is helping you. It reminds your brain that discomfort is temporary. And more often than not, the hardest part was never the work itself. It was simply beginning. But if starting is the key, why do so many people continue waiting? The answer lies in one of the biggest misconceptions about motivation. And that's exactly where we're going next. Imagine waiting for the perfect moment to begin. The perfect mood. The perfect level of confidence. The perfect amount of motivation. Now imagine waiting for years. That's exactly what millions of people unknowingly do. They believe action is the reward for feeling motivated. But reality works the other way around. Motivation is often the reward for taking action. Think about the last time you forced yourself to start something you had been avoiding. Maybe it was a workout. Maybe it was studying. Maybe it was cleaning your room. Maybe it was simply answering an email. Before you started, it felt exhausting. But after a few minutes, something changed. The resistance became smaller. Your focus improved. And suddenly, continuing felt easier than starting. That's because your brain updates its expectations through experience. Before you begin, your mind imagines discomfort. After you begin, it starts gathering evidence. Evidence that the task isn't as overwhelming as it first appeared. This is why the first minute is often more difficult than the next 30. Not because the work became easier, but because your brain stopped treating it like a threat. There's a powerful lesson hidden inside this. You don't need to eliminate fear before taking action. You need to prove to your brain that action is safe. And you do that the same way every single time. By starting one small step, one page, one phone call, one paragraph, 1 minute. We often underestimate the power of small beginnings because we're obsessed with big results. We imagine success as one extraordinary moment. But almost every extraordinary life is built through ordinary actions repeated consistently. A writer becomes a writer one page at a time. An athlete becomes stronger one workout at a time. A business grows one decision at a time. Confidence is built the same way. Not by thinking, by doing. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence. Evidence that you're someone who follows through. Evidence that your words matter. Evidence that you can trust yourself. And perhaps that's the greatest cost of procrastination. It's not the missed opportunities. It's not the lost time. It's the quiet damage it causes to your relationship with yourself. Every time you tell yourself, "I'll do it tomorrow," and tomorrow becomes next week, a small part of your confidence disappears. Not because you failed, but because your mind begins to question whether you'll ever keep your own promises. The opposite is also true. Every small action strengthens your identity. Every completed task whispers the same message. I can trust myself. That sentence is more valuable than motivation, because motivation comes and goes. Self-trust stays with you. The most disciplined people in the world aren't constantly fighting themselves. They've simply built an identity around action. They don't ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" They ask, "Is this the kind of person I want to become?" That single shift changes everything. Because once your focus moves from feelings to identity, every decision becomes a vote for the future version of yourself. And that's when procrastination begins to lose its power. Not in one dramatic moment, but in hundreds of quiet decisions that nobody else will ever see. Decisions that slowly transform who you are. Because in the end, your life is rarely changed by one giant leap. It's changed by the small choices you make when no one is watching. And one day, those invisible choices become visible results. The question is, what kind of future are your choices creating today? Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine waking up exactly 5 years from today. Not in a different city, not in a different life. Simply 5 years older. You walk toward a mirror. The person looking back at you isn't a stranger. It's the result of thousands of ordinary decisions. Every promise you kept, every excuse you accepted, every opportunity you embraced, every opportunity you ignored. The person in that mirror wasn't created overnight. They were built one day at a time, one decision at a time, one moment at a time. This is the part about procrastination that few people ever talk about. Procrastination doesn't usually destroy your future in dramatic ways. It does something much quieter. It slowly steals your potential. One day doesn't matter very much. Missing one workout changes almost nothing. Delaying one phone call rarely changes your life. Postponing one chapter doesn't seem important. But life is never lived in single days. Life is lived in patterns. And patterns become habits. Habits become identity. Identity becomes destiny. That's why procrastination is so dangerous. Not because of what it costs you today, but because of what it quietly takes away over the years. Imagine two people standing side by side. They have the same intelligence, the same education, the same opportunities, the same dreams. The only difference is that one of them chooses to act a little sooner. One more difficult conversation, one more page written, one more workout completed, one more risk accepted. At first, the difference is invisible. Weeks go by, nothing seems to change. Months pass. Still, they look almost identical. But then, the years begin to reveal what the days were hiding. One person has built confidence. The other has built hesitation. One has collected evidence of courage. The other has collected evidence of delay. Neither future appeared by accident. Both were created by repetition. This is why your daily choices matter so much. They are never just choices. They are votes. Votes for the person you're becoming. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you cast another vote for your future. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the identity you're creating. And perhaps that's the most beautiful part of this entire journey. Your future isn't decided today. It's built today, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. Even now, while you're listening to these words, you're making a decision. You can close this video, tell yourself you'll think about it later, and allow another day to pass. Or, you can let this be the moment everything begins to change. Not because you'll suddenly become perfect, but because you'll finally understand something that most people never do. Your life isn't waiting for one extraordinary decision. It's waiting for your next ordinary one. Because extraordinary lives are almost always built through ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. Years from now, you won't remember the exact day your life started changing. You'll simply realize it began the moment you stopped waiting. Before you leave, I want to ask you one final question. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, what is the one thing you've been avoiding? Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a business you've wanted to start, a book you've always wanted to write, a skill you've promised yourself you'd learn. Or perhaps it's something much simpler. A single phone call, a single email, a single step. Whatever it is, you already know what came to mind. You didn't have to search for the answer. It found you immediately. That's because deep down, most of us already know what we need to do. We simply spend too much time waiting to feel ready. But here's the truth. You may never feel completely ready. There may never be a perfect moment. There may never be a day when fear completely disappears. And that's okay. Because the people who change their lives aren't the people who wait for certainty. They're the people who learn to move despite uncertainty. They understand something that most people spend years trying to discover. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Every meaningful journey begins in exactly the same place, with a decision, not a dramatic one, not a life-changing announcement, just a quiet decision, a decision to begin. And once you begin, something remarkable happens. Your confidence slowly grows. Your identity begins to change. Your future starts moving in a different direction, not because everything became easier, but because you finally stopped standing still. 1 year from now, you'll either be grateful that you started today, or you'll wish you had. That choice has always been yours, and it still is. So when this video ends, don't watch another one. Don't scroll. Don't tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Take one small action. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be impressive. It simply has to be real. Because every great achievement, every meaningful career, every successful business, every healthy relationship, every extraordinary life was built exactly the same way. One decision, followed by another, and another, until those ordinary decisions became an extraordinary future. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this message helped you see procrastination differently, I hope you'll carry it with you long after this video ends. Until next time, keep becoming the person your future self is waiting to meet. Welcome to Beyond Wealth, because true wealth goes beyond money.